What it do, cucks? It's your boy, the Hater, and it's Friday night, which must mean two things. Number one, Smackdown review, and number two, Hater Outdoors. That's right, Hater Outdoors up in this piece. So let's review this episode of Smackdown. Now, I know this is an episode that a lot of people are going to like. You know what I mean? A lot of people are going to enjoy this episode, but you guessed it, the Hater did not like it. But as usual, the Hater is going to explain why he didn't like it and why basically everyone that liked it is at least going to be partially incorrect, right? Let's get to it, right? The show starts out with Triple Cuck coming out, right? And he reminds us of a day 25 years ago. The Hater remembers this day well. It was 1999 because of two reasons. One, the Hater's mom's friend was coming to visit from the old country because she was starting school in the U.S. She must have been in her early 40s, late 30s. And that day, the Hater and his mom went to the mall where the Hater purchased, well, his mom purchased him a booster pack of Pokemon cards. And I got Venomoth, which was a shiny card. Then I went home and remembered, wait a second, it's the first episode of Smackdown. And I caught the tail end of the show. I caught specifically the main event. Triple H talks about this main event, and he says that 25 years ago, he main evented the first episode of SmackDown with The Rock. Now, this match was a classic. Shawn Michaels basically screws The Rock as The Rock is about to drop the people's elbow, and he super kicks him, does a sweet shit music, and makes Triple H win, right? This was like the beginning of Triple H's like ascendancy to the main event. He was the world champion, but he didn't really feel like it because he had won it like, the day after SummerSlam, and, he was still with China. Like, it wasn't like part of the DX moment, But Triple H made a mistake in talking about this in the Hater's opinion. And the primary reason for that is because it reminds us, the ones of us that were alive back then, thank God, and were able to watch this, how much better that episode was than this episode. In other words, the same way that we had a WWE title match 25 years ago between Triple H and The Rock, today we have one, but instead of Triple H and The Rock, we get two mid-card nobodies called Cucky Rhodes and Solo Sikoa. So that right there pretty much defeats the point of the entire promo and deflates the balloon, takes the wind out of the sails. Pick the metaphor you like, that's what it did. But luckily, that match starts out first, right? The match, I didn't like it at all. It had reasons to be a good match. I can tell people are going to like it, but I didn't like it because, quite frankly, I was waiting for the Bloodline to come and interfere. They didn't. Cucky Rhodes beat Solo Sikoa clean. In hindsight, the match was pretty good because there was a lot of pretty decent spots. But I always felt that the spots were just inferior versions of the spots that I thought we would see. Like, I thought that Solo Sikoa would do the top rope splash, but instead of the top rope, from the top of the cage. Cucky Rhodes does a crossbody from the top of the cage. I thought he would do a moonsault, right? None of these things happened, but whatever. It was what it was. Then, for some strange reason that really ruined the match again, the Bloodline, the new Bloodline, comes out and starts beating up Cucky Rhodes after the match. Why didn't they do this during the match so Solo could become the champion? It was very, very strange. Like, they're going to do it anyways. You might as well do it during the match. But anyways, they do it after the match, and then Roman Reigns comes out with his new inferior music and beats them all up. Now imagine how much more powerful this would have been if Roman Reigns had not come back at SummerSlam. Imagine if Cody Rhodes just beat Solo Sikoa at SummerSlam and Roman Reigns didn't show his face. And he showed his face for the first time tonight. That would have been epic, And that's exactly what I was talking about. The fact that Roman Reigns is coming back again really detracts from the fact that he was already back, right? That's a stupid decision. It's a stupid choice. And quite frankly, it did deflate this recent return of Roman Reigns tonight. Nevertheless, it's always good to see the tribal chief, right? As I said, Cucky Rhodes wins. Roman Reigns beats up, and with help from Cody, they beat up the tag team champions, like the two lesser members of the Bloodline, right? There's a point where Jacob Fatu gets in the ring and the fans start chanting, "Holy shit," as if like something amazing happened. Jacob Fatu is everything wrong with wrestling. Like, most of you will remember that there was a group called Legacy that was led by Randy Orton, and in Legacy there was a guy called Manu. He's another one of the Anoa'i family, right? This guy, Jacob Fatu is basically Manu. You know what I mean? There's nothing that sets him apart from anybody, any other jobber Samoan. But whatever. It is what it is. They're presenting him as such, so we'll just take it, right? At some point, we get Kevin Owens and a mystery partner versus A-Town Down. This was a pretty interesting and fun little segment because basically what happened was that a random jobber comes out to be Kevin Owens' partner, right? And then Kevin Owens stuns him when he hears that he is here, right? He being, of course, Randy Orton, you know what I'm saying? Randy Orton comes out. Oh, there was also like a match between Michin and Piper Niven, but nobody cares. That was just a filler match. Nobody gives a flying fuck, you know what I mean? So after stunning the jobber, Orton and Kevin Owens obviously beat Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. I mean, who cares about these guys? It's completely stupid if you ask me, but whatever, right? Then we have a segment between Nia Jax and Bayley. Like, this segment was just atrocious. At some point, like, they keep pushing Tiffany Stratton now, like she has her gimmick again. You know, she didn't have it for a while in NXT, but now she has like the rich girl, like Paris Hilton-ish gimmick. And I will say that I do like how the Money in the Bank has been converted essentially into a purse for her. That fits really well. However, and I'm going to say it, and I don't mean to be rude, but Tiffany Stratton, quite frankly, is just not attractive enough. She's not feminine enough to play off this role, right? Like, I'm not saying that Paris Hilton is a knockout or anything, right? But Paris Hilton is feminine, you know? And quite frankly, Tiffany Stratton isn't. She comes off more like an athlete. She's like a Bianca Belair, right? Where it's like they're obviously attractive women, but I'm not attracted to them because they're just presented as super athletes, right? Even Jade Cargill, who is more athletic than them both, is better looking because she's more feminine. She has a femininity in her face, right? These other girls have these bloated faces, and I don't understand what the point is. Speaking of bloated faces, Nia Jax is also there, cucks. And then Naomi comes out, and I couldn't help but think that this might be the collection of ugliest women in the history of television. Like, I don't think there's ever been a time in TV where you've had 4 uglier women on TV that are presented as being attractive. Like, because they're supposed to be divas or whatever the fuck they call them now, right? But none of these girls are attractive at all. Like, you know what I mean? They just look like random people. You know, so 4 random people are there, basically arguing as to which one of these random people is the better random person. Nobody cared at all. It was boring. It was a colossal waste of time, right? After this, we have the 5th and hopefully final match between Andrade and Carmelo Hayes. During the match, which I found quite enjoyable, I couldn't help but think, like, if Carmelo Hayes was, like, taller and bigger, right, he would be, like, a main eventer. You know what I mean? Because he's a good-looking guy. He's obviously athletic. He's got good moves, you know? Probably needs a new finisher, but he's got good moves otherwise, right? He's got some charisma. He has almost everything you need except for, you know, the size, right? Which for him, it's height and weight. Now, that is what it is, right? He can't do anything about that. That's how God made him. However, right, I started thinking about people that were able to overcome their relatively smaller statures, like Benoit and Kurt Angle, right? They did it by just being complete beasts, by being like all muscle, you know what I mean? And they were able to be taken seriously as main eventers because you can look at Benoit and you're like, oh, this guy would tear anybody apart. You don't get that same sense with Carmelo Hayes because he doesn't have like a Benoit or Kurt Angle physique. And obviously with Kurt Angle, you also get the extra added bonus of Kurt Angle, like, being Kurt Angle, you know what I mean? Like, and knowing that if he wanted to, he would beat up everybody there in 10 seconds, right? So, you know, it is what it is, but that's what it is, right? Like, Carmelo Hayes' path to the top is pretty much, like, narrowed down to he needs to become the next Shawn Michaels. And that's just very difficult to do, you know what I mean? Like, that's not a discredit to him. It's just a very difficult standard to accomplish, right? It's difficult because only one person has accomplished it, Shawn Michaels, right? And you can maybe make an argument that Jeff Hardy reached that level, but Jeff Hardy was like 5 inches taller than Carmelo Hayes, you know? A lot of people like don't realize that because people forget. Jeff Hardy was billed at like 6'2", so he probably was, or I think he was billed at either 6'1" or 6. So he was probably 6 because wrestlers like Jeff Hardy, they don't enhance their heights because he's supposed to be a small guy, right? But he was 6 foot, like 230 pounds probably. Like, he was the same size as Jacob Fatu. And people are like, wow, Jacob Fatu did the whisper in the wind, and he made it look effortless. He didn't do it as well as Hardy, and he's about the same size. You know? They tell you that he's 280. He's not 280. Now Jacob Fatu almost has abs. You know what I mean? He's not like this big, heavy guy. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. More on that douchebag later, right? The match ends pretty cool. What's his face? Andrade does like the message from the top rope, which was a pretty cool way to finish the match. I would have liked to see Carmelo win. I think his ceiling is higher, but they made their choice. Ultimately, none of this mattered because now that Andrade is the winner of this, he's the #1 contender for the U.S. title. And as soon as he wins, basically, LA Knight's music hits. He's massively over. The fans lose their mind. And LA Knight, even though he butchers some of the words, LA Knight is a fucking star. I mean, nobody can deny this, you know? In my recent videos where I've talked about Obafemi, I'll talk about that more in a second, but you can look at LA Knight and you can see that this guy is missing absolutely nothing. The only thing that he doesn't have anymore is his youth, right? So like LA Knight's like in his 40s. He doesn't have 10 more years to be at the top, right? But if he did, he would be like the guy because he's better than everyone that's been on this show thus far, except for Roman Reigns. You know what I mean? You can just tell, right? You look at him, you're like, this guy's a star. He's charismatic. He's good at promos. He's got an incredible physique. He's a good-looking guy. He's got all of them, right? Then you compare him to like Obafemi, and you're like, and then I thought to myself, like, people actually watch Obafemi and see what I see in LA Knight. Like, they think he's undeniable the same way that LA Knight is. People have lost their minds. Anyways, more on that a little bit later when we talk about Roman Reigns. LA Knight basically says it doesn't matter because, you know, he's going to win. It's his show. It's his title with everybody saying, L.A. Knight, yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, obviously, he gets a huge pop during all of his words. And in my opinion, this was the highlight of the night thus far. Just a small promo by L.A. Knight is more entertaining than everything that we've seen up until this point. And quite frankly, it was more entertaining than everything we saw, period, right? Then we have a segment. The storyline is that Nick Aldis wants to do a tag match for some reason. The tag match is Cookie Rhodes, who's the WWE champion, with Roman Reigns versus like two jobbers, right? Called Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. This is ridiculous. This would be like the equivalent of, you know, let's say you had like Triple H loses the title and he gets attacked by like Road Dogg and X-Pac. So now it's Triple H and Stone Cold versus Road Dogg and X-Pac on pay-per-view, right? It's like, no, you expect Road Dogg and X-Pac to just lose in a squash match in 30 seconds, right? But that's not how this match is presented, right? At a certain point during the night, Cookie goes to Nick Aldis' office and he says, I'm done with the bloodline. Like, I don't want to be part of this match, which is very reasonable, right? I mean, like, Cody Rhodes is the champion, right? Why is he being put in this personal feud, which is a family feud? Roman Reigns comes out, says the same thing, right? In the beginning of the last segment, he comes out. For some reason, Nick Aldis is still there. Nick Aldis starts saying nonsense. Roman Reigns extends his hand outwards for the mic. The fans lose their mind. They're chanting OTC, right? Again, Roman Reigns comes out to his shitty new music, but whatever, right? He gets the mic and he says like 3 sentences. He says them well, but it was only 3 sentences. Basically, he's like, I don't care about like Cookie Rhodes. I don't care about, you know, Nick. I don't care about the contract. You know, this is family feud, basically, right? Then he says it's still his ring. It's still his WWE. Cookie Rhodes comes out. Now, I was hoping, because the show was almost at an end, that Cookie Rhodes would get to the ring quick. No, he goes through his fucking full entrance. You know, we hear 2 whoas. We hear 2 of those. This guy takes his sweet ass time to get to the ring. Once there, he basically says, no, it's not yours anymore because it was until WrestleMania, but it's not. They both dropped their mics, and I'm thinking to myself, of course they're not going to fight because everybody knows that if like Roman Reigns were to spear Cookie Rhodes, the fans would lose their mind, right? And if Cookie Rhodes were to hit the crossroads on Roman, the fans would boo. The play here, obviously, is do essentially a double turn, a prolonged double turn. Cookie needs to be healed because, quite frankly, the experiment of him as a world champion has failed completely, right? It's not interesting. It's not entertaining. Nobody gives a flying fuck, right? But Roman Reigns is interesting again, so he should be the winner, and he will become the champion again. Now, whatever like methodology they use to get to that point is immaterial, right? The only thing that matters is next WrestleMania, Roman Reigns versus The Rock. That's the only thing that matters. Nothing else is important. I don't give a rat's ass about Cookie Rhodes. You know, like he's going to be like in some meaningless match, like wrestling like Seth Rollins again or something. You know what I mean? Like nobody cares. So with all that being said, at this point, Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa come out. Solo Sikoa is trying to cut a promo without a mic, and Jacob Fatu is just staring at him in a creepy way with his hands in a prayer, you know, like, you know, his palms touching each other, just staring at him like, like a loyal lackey, right? It was really dumb. And basically, long story short, as they come out, the other two jobbers, the jobbers of the bloodline, attack our heroes from behind. They get their asses whipped thoroughly, right? Roman Reigns gets the contract and signs it. Solo Sikoa's like, he's not going to sign it. He doesn't like you, which I thought was a nice little touch by Solo. But eventually, Cookie Rhodes extends his hand out and gets it. Now, I couldn't help but think, this was like bad, in my opinion, for Roman Reigns, because Roman Reigns shouldn't be asking for help, and you have Jey Uso for that. But fine, you've gone this path. It's him and Cookie. So now it can just be him, Cookie, and the Usos versus these four jobbers at like Survivor Series or something. I don't know. I don't really care. But you don't need to like bring in someone else. But it doesn't really matter. The truth of the matter is what the truth of the matter is, cucks. And that is that Roman Reigns, in my opinion, loses by associating himself with Cookie, right? Maybe they're building up to something. I don't care. But the idea is that Roman Reigns shouldn't want help from not from just Cody Rhodes, especially from Cody Rhodes, but he shouldn't want help from anybody, right? Because he just said a minute ago, it's family feud. It's me against them. Right? I don't need anybody. And all of a sudden, he's okay with the match, right? And Cookie Rhodes, this actually made sense. Cookie Rhodes is okay with the match because he's Cookie Rhodes, right? He just got his ass beat. So he's like, oh, like I got my ass beat. And as a result of getting my ass beat, now my program with the bloodline continues, right? It's not over because they won't leave him alone. And that actually makes sense, right? So, in conclusion, the episode had some good things, right? Roman Reigns' return was good. Oh, I should also mention this. When Roman Reigns gets the mic and the fans are losing their minds, you can just look at Roman Reigns. I advise you, if you don't know what I'm talking about, watch that moment again and watch when Roman Reigns gets the mic and the fans are chanting OTC. That's what a star looks like, right? So anybody that thinks that Trick Williams and Obafemi and fucking Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and Finn Balor have these attributes, they don't know. Now you can just look at Roman Reigns and be like, yeah, never has this happened in the careers of all those guys, right? Where they get the mic and everyone just loses their minds. Nobody's ever lost their mind over Obafemi or Trick Williams or even Finn Balor. I mean, you can make an argument for Finn Balor, but you know what I mean? Like lose their minds like massively over, right? So that was good, but again, like in a vacuum, this episode was a good episode. But taken all together with the build-up that we've experienced for now, 5-6 months almost, right? If we start counting at WrestleMania, like taken with that in mind, it wasn't good, right? It was poorly done. And most importantly, the entire premise of the show is that it's a new beginning, right? It's 25 years since the first episode. 25 years, motherfucks, since the first episode. Keep that in mind. 25 years since the first episode, and we're back in a new network. It was like Smackdown started out on UPN, right? Which is where all the shows that nobody gave a shit about went, right? It started out there, and now where we at, right? Where we at? Now we're back to USA, and it's a new beginning, but we have to be reminded of the old beginning, right? Now, I'll end with this. The population of the United States back in 1999 was about 50, 60 million fewer people, right? The population of the world was far, far smaller. You know what I mean? You could say what you want, but the reality is this. Despite the fact, like we're almost at 8 billion people now in the world, right? Now let's see here, 1989, just out of curiosity. 6 billion. So we have 2 more billion people. Only 50 million of them are in America. So that's not good. But whatever, right? We have 2 billion more people that have been born and have lived and are alive. More people have been born because people have also died, obviously. Right? We have so many more people. And yet fewer people are watching wrestling. And when people ask you why, you don't even need to worry about it anymore. Just point to Triple H's speech. 25 years ago, the main event was The Rock versus Triple H with Shawn Michaels as special guest referee. Today, it's Cookie Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa in a steel cuck match. You understand what I'm saying? That's all you need to know about that. So overall, definitely better than the other Smackdowns in a vacuum. But in reality, It really is not. Cuckolds!